Increase the dosage, the man said. No, the woman replied. I want him to die slowly. Let his death not be suspicious. My sponge froze in my hand. I wasn't supposed to hear anything. That's the rule when you clean floors for people who drink wine worth more than your life. You keep your head down. You don't exist. But the wall was thin, and their voices were careless. You still love me, she whispered. I heard the smile in her voice. I never stopped, he said. Once he's gone, it's just us. My heart started pounding so loud, I was sure they'd hear it. Victor trusts you, she continued. You're his doctor. He won't question a thing. I swallowed. Hard. That's when I stepped closer, out of the shadows, just enough to see her reflection in the silver tray. Diamonds. Perfect hair. A wedding ring that could buy my mother another year of life. And then the name fell from her lips like a death sentence. By the time Victor Moretti realizes he's dying, it'll be too late. I knew then. I had just overheard a murder. And the man they were killing owned half of the city. This was a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear, but they were so careless. I was trying to stay invisible, keep my head down, scrub, and act like I don't exist. But the wall was thin that night. I was on my knees in the storage hallway behind the private dining room, wringing out my sponge, when I heard her laugh. Low. Intimate. The kind of laugh that doesn't belong in a business dinner. You're reckless, a man said. His voice was smooth, confident. And you love it, she replied. I froze. Lower the dosage this week, he continued. We can't have him crashing too fast. My hands went still in the bucket. No, she said firmly. Slow. I want him weak, not suspicious. I should have left, grabbed my supplies, walked away. But something in her tone, cold, calculated, kept me rooted to the spot. You still love me, she whispered. I never stopped, he said. Once he's gone, it's just us. No more pretending. My heart started pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it through the wall. Victor trusts you, she continued. You're his personal doctor. He won't question a thing. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. He's already showing symptoms, the man said. Fatigue. Dizziness. In a few months, his liver will start failing. By then, it'll be irreversible. She laughed again. Soft. Satisfied. And then you're a widow. A very wealthy widow. I heard the clink of glasses. A toast. My stomach turned. I knew I should move. Run. Disappear back into the kitchen where I belonged. But my legs wouldn't cooperate. I stayed there, frozen, listening to two people plan a murder like they were discussing a vacation. To us, she said. To freedom, he replied. Then she said the name. The one that made my blood run cold. By the time Victor Moretti realizes he's dying, it'll be too late. Victor Moretti. Everyone in this city knew that name. The man who owned half the downtown real estate. The man politicians feared. The man whose enemies disappeared. And I had just overheard his wife and his doctor plotting to kill him. I had just overheard a murder. And the man they were killing owned half of the city. I should have walked away that night. I should have scrubbed the floor, clocked out, and forgotten everything I'd heard. But I couldn't. The name Victor Moretti haunted me like a ghost I couldn't shake. 2 days later, I was back at the restaurant. Different shift. Same hallway. And they were there again. This time, I wasn't scrubbing floors. I was replacing linens in the storage closet when I heard the private dining room door click shut. Then her voice. That same cold, elegant voice. How much longer? She asked. 3 months. Maybe 4, the doctor replied. His body's weakening exactly as planned. I pressed my ear closer to the wall. He asked me yesterday why he's always tired, she said. There was amusement in her tone. I told him he's working too hard, that he needs rest. The doctor laughed. And he believed you? He always does. Victor thinks I'm devoted. You are devoted, he said. Just not to him. I heard movement. A chair scraping. Then silence. The kind of silence that made my skin crawl. I missed you, she whispered. Then show me. My stomach turned. I didn't need to see through the wall to know what was happening. The soft sounds. The way her breath hitched. This wasn't just a murder plot. This was a love affair. Twisted. Dangerous. Built on a dying man's trust. Do you ever feel guilty? She asked after a moment. No, he said simply. Do you? Not even a little. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. He took everything from me, she continued. My freedom. My youth. He bought me like I was another piece of property. Now I'm taking it back. We're taking it back, the doctor corrected. Together. Together, she repeated. And when it's over, he asked, we disappear. New identities. New life. The money's already offshore. What about suspicion? She laughed. Soft. Chilling. Victor Moretti has more enemies than friends. When he dies, no one will question it. They'll just assume someone finally got to him. And his doctor? His devoted doctor tried everything to save him, she said smoothly. But his liver failed. Tragic. Unavoidable. Natural causes, he said. Exactly. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I backed away from the wall, my hands trembling. The doctor's voice dropped lower. It'll look completely natural. And that's when I knew no one was coming to save Victor Moretti. No one even knew he was dying. I saw him 6 days later. I was walking through the park near the hospital, taking the long route home because my mother's medication had drained my last paycheck and I couldn't afford the bus. The sky was gray, cold, the kind of day that makes you feel small. That's when I spotted the wheelchair. And the man sitting in it, Victor Moretti. He looked nothing like the photos I'd seen in the papers. No sharp suit, no commanding presence. He was thin, pale. His hands rested limply on the armrests, and a blanket covered his legs. He looked broken. A bodyguard stood behind him, stone-faced, silent. And a few feet away, she stood, his wife. Elegant as ever. Designer coat, diamonds glittering at her throat. Her phone pressed to her ear. But her eyes weren't on the phone. They were on me. I should have kept walking. Should have turned around and disappeared into the trees. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way Victor sat there, so still, so unaware. Maybe it was the weight of the secret I'd been carrying for over a week. Maybe it was the fact that I'd spent my whole life invisible, and for once, I wanted to matter. So I walked toward him. His bodyguard straightened immediately, hand moving toward his jacket. But Victor raised one weak hand. It's fine, he said. His voice was rough. Tired. I stopped a few feet away, my heart hammering in my chest. Mr. Moretti? I said quietly. He looked at me. Really looked at me. His eyes were dark. Sharp. Even weakened. There was something terrifying about his gaze. Do I know you? He asked. No, I said. But I know something you need to hear. His expression didn't change. But I saw it, the flicker of interest, the calculation. Behind him, his wife ended her call. She was walking toward us now, her heels clicking against the pavement. Her face was calm, polite, but her eyes burned. Victor, darling, she said smoothly. Who's this? He didn't answer. He was still watching me. I clean floors, I said. My voice shook. At Marcello's. The restaurant. Recognition flickered in his eyes. His wife stepped closer. Her smile was cold. How lovely. Victor, we should go. You need your rest. But Victor didn't move. What do you need to tell me? He asked. I swallowed hard. This was it. The moment I either saved his life or ended mine. His wife's hand rested on his shoulder. Possessive. Threatening. It's nothing, she said. Come, Victor. But he ignored her. His eyes stayed locked on mine. And then she did something I didn't expect. She walked away. If Elizabeth hadn't chosen to speak, Victor would be dead within months. His wife would be living in paradise with her lover. And a murderer would have gotten away with it. But she chose truth over safety. Now I need you to make a choice. If this story gave you chills, if you're sitting there wondering what happens next, if Elizabeth's courage reminded you that even the smallest voice can change everything, then don't just walk away. Drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have stayed silent, or would you have risked everything like Elizabeth did? Share this story with someone who loves thrillers, someone who needs to remember their voice matters, someone who would be glued to their screen just like you are right now. And subscribe. Because Elizabeth's story isn't over. The wife is watching. Victor is waiting. And what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, love, and revenge. Hundreds of people will watch this and do nothing. Don't be one of them. Your comment, your share, your subscription. It takes 10 seconds, but it tells me you're still here. That you care how this ends. Elizabeth risked her life to tell the truth. The least you can do is hit that subscribe button. She walked away. His wife. The woman plotting to kill him. She just left. I watched her elegant figure disappear down the path, phone pressed to her ear again. Playing her role perfectly. The devoted wife giving her husband space. But I'd seen her eyes. Cold. Calculating. She knew I was a threat. And she'd just left me alone with him anyway. Victor's gaze never left my face. The bodyguard stood like a statue behind the wheelchair, hand still hovering near his weapon. Speak, Victor said quietly. My throat went dry. This was insane. I was about to tell a Mafia boss that his wife was poisoning him, that his doctor was her lover, that everything he trusted was a lie. He could have me killed for this. Right here. Right now. Your wife, I started, my voice barely a whisper. And your doctor. There. Louder, he interrupted. I can barely hear you. I took a shaky breath. They're poisoning you. Silence. The bodyguard's hand moved. Victor raised one finger. The hand stopped. Continue, Victor said. His voice was flat, emotionless. I overheard them. At Marcello's. In the private dining room. She said. I swallowed hard. She said they're lovers. That they're giving you something to make your liver fail. Slow enough that it looks natural. Still nothing. No rage. No disbelief. Just those dark eyes watching me like I was a specimen under glass. 3 to 4 months. I continued, the words spilling out now. That's what the doctor said. He's lowering the dosage, so you won't get suspicious. So you'll just get weaker and weaker until I die, Victor finished. Yes. Another long silence. Somewhere behind us, a dog barked. A jogger passed. Normal people living normal lives. And here I was, signing my death warrant. Why are you telling me this? Victor asked finally. The question caught me off guard. Because it's wrong. Because you're dying and you don't even know it. You don't know me, he said. I could be a monster. For all you know, I deserve this. Maybe, I whispered. But they don't get to decide that. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile. Not quite approval. Something darker. What's your name? Elizabeth. Elizabeth what? Chun. He nodded slowly. Then he did something that terrified me more than anything else. He pulled out his phone. Tell me everything, he said. Every word. Every detail. Every time. Every place. Not if you're lying, you're dead. Not prove it. Just tell me everything. And I realized he believed me, which meant I'd just become the most dangerous person in his world. I didn't hear from Victor for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of looking over my shoulder. 2 weeks of jumping at shadows. 2 weeks of wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. Then my mother's hospital called. Miss Chen, your mother's treatment has been covered. In full. An anonymous benefactor. I stood in our tiny apartment, phone shaking in my hand, and I knew. Victor Moretti was still alive. And he was making moves. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was what was happening behind closed doors. Victor had gone home that day from the park and done something brilliant, something ruthless. He didn't confront his wife. He didn't fire his doctor. He just switched his medication. He had a friend, another doctor, one his wife didn't know about, run tests on everything he was taking. And when the results came back showing toxic levels of substances that shouldn't be there, Victor smiled. Then he had identical pills made. Placebos. Sugar pills. Harmless. And he started taking those instead. Within days, he felt different. Stronger. The fog in his head began to clear. His energy returned. Color came back to his face. But he didn't let it show. He kept pretending. Kept playing the dying man. Slumped in his wheelchair. Voice weak. Hands trembling. He watched his wife fuss over him. Watched her bring him water with those poison-laced pills. Watched her kiss his forehead with lips that had kissed another man. And he smiled. And he swallowed the fake pills. And he waited. But his wife wasn't stupid. 3 weeks after the park, she noticed. It was small. Just a flicker. Victor reached for a glass of water without shaking. His grip was steady. Strong. She froze. "Victor," she said carefully, "how are you feeling today?" "Tired," he lied. So tired. But she'd seen it. That moment of strength. That night, she called the doctor. "Something's wrong," she hissed into the phone. I know because Victor had already bugged her phone. Had cameras installed. Had every conversation recorded. "What do you mean?" the doctor asked. "He's getting stronger." Silence. "That's impossible," the doctor said. "The dosage." "I know what the dosage is," she snapped. "But I'm telling you, something's changed. Then we increase it." "No. If we increase it now, and he suddenly crashes, it'll look suspicious." More silence. "Then what?" the doctor asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then we move up the timeline." And in his study, Victor listened to the recording and smiled. His wife had just made her first mistake. She'd noticed his strength returning, which meant the game was about to get deadly. Love makes people stupid. I learned that watching them fall apart. Victor kept me close after that. Not physically. I still cleaned floors, still lived in my cramped apartment, but I was on his payroll now. His eyes. His ears. "I need to know everything," he'd told me. Every meeting. Every whisper. "Can you do that?" I should have said no. Should have taken my mother's paid hospital bills and disappeared. But I didn't. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. So I watched. And I listened. And what I saw was a love affair imploding under its own recklessness. The wife and the doctor stopped being careful. They met more often. Touched more brazenly. At Marcello's, I saw him slide his hand up her thigh under the table. Saw her lean in and kiss him. Right there in the private room. Thinking no one could see. But I could see. And I reported everything. "They're planning to leave," I told Victor one evening. We were in his car, parked 3 blocks from my apartment. I heard them talking about plane tickets. Fake passports. Victor didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied. "When?" he asked. 2 weeks. Maybe less. She said she can't wait anymore. That watching you waste away is torture. He laughed. Actually laughed. It was a cold, terrifying sound. "She thinks I'm dying," he said. "She thinks she's one." "Hasn't she?" I asked quietly. "If they leave." "They're not leaving," Victor interrupted. His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. "No one leaves me, Elizabeth. No one." A chill ran down my spine. "What are you going to do?" But he didn't answer. He just handed me an envelope. Cash. More than I'd make in 6 months of scrubbing floors. "Keep watching," he said. So I did. And 3 days later, I saw them meet at a hotel. Saw the doctor carry in a suitcase. Saw her arrive 20 minutes later, looking around nervously before slipping inside. I texted Victor the address. His response was immediate. "Stay there. Watch the exit." I waited in the coffee shop across the street, my heart pounding. An hour passed. Then 2. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A black car pulled up. Not Victor's usual vehicle. Something unmarked. Anonymous. And Victor stepped out. He wasn't in a wheelchair. He walked strong, steady, powerful, straight into that hotel. The man who was supposed to be dying had just walked into the building where his wife and her lover were planning their escape. And I realized this wasn't about catching them anymore. This was about revenge. Victor didn't go into that hotel for confrontation. He went for information. I found out later, much later, that he'd installed cameras in their room weeks ago. That he'd watched every intimate moment, every whispered promise, every detail of their escape plan. He knew about the offshore accounts, the fake passports, the villa in Costa Rica. He knew everything. and he let them think they'd won. 4 days after the hotel, I watched them move. The doctor left the country first, smart, they thought, to travel separately. He took a red-eye to Miami, then a connection to San Jose. The wife waited 2 days, playing the grieving spouse. Victor had taken a turn for the worse. She told everyone he was barely conscious, that the end was near. She even cried at his bedside. I watched the security footage Victor showed me, watched her dab her eyes with a tissue while her phone buzzed with messages from her lover. Almost there, one read, "Soon we'll never have to hide again." She smiled, actually smiled, then went back to holding Victor's hand. On the 3rd day, she booked her flight. "She's going to the airport," I told Victor. "Tonight. 11 p.m. flight to Miami." "I know," he said calmly. "Let her go." "What?" "Let her get to the airport, Elizabeth. Let her think she's free." I didn't understand. Not then. But I went anyway. Watched from the departures level as she glided through the terminal in designer sunglasses and a silk scarf, pulling a Chanel suitcase behind her. She looked like someone going on vacation, not someone fleeing a murder. She made it through check-in, through security, all the way to her gate. I texted Victor, "She's boarding in 20 minutes. His response, "Perfect." 10 minutes later, I saw them. Police. Dozens of them. Flooding the terminal in tactical gear. People screamed, scattered. But the officers moved with precision, straight toward her gate. I watched from behind a pillar as they surrounded her. Watched her face go from confusion to horror to rage. "What is this?" she screamed. "I haven't done anything. Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and theft of assets," an officer said, pulling out handcuffs. "This is insane. I'm Victor Moretti's wife. He's dying. I'm going to see family." "Mr. Moretti is very much alive," the officer interrupted. "And he's pressing charges." Her face went white. "That's impossible," she whispered. But it wasn't. And as they led her away in handcuffs, I saw him. Victor. Standing near the terminal entrance. Strong. Healthy. Very much alive. Our eyes met across the crowded terminal. He nodded once. Then the police lights flooded everything, and I knew the doctor was next. The call came 3 days after the arrest. "Mr. Moretti wants to see you." My blood went cold. I'd done everything he asked. Watched. Reported. Kept his secrets. But I also knew too much. I knew about the poison, the affair, the arrests. I'd seen Victor at his weakest, and at his most ruthless. People who knew that much about Victor Moretti didn't usually live long, quiet lives. The car picked me up at dawn. Black. Unmarked. The same one from the hotel. We drove in silence to a restaurant I recognized. Marcello's, where this whole nightmare started. They led me to the private dining room. The same room where I'd heard his wife and the doctor plotting his murder. Victor sat at the head of the table. Alone. No bodyguards. No witnesses. Just him. And an empty chair across from him. "Sit," he said. I sat. My hands were shaking. "You're afraid," he observed. "Yes," I whispered. "Good. Fear keeps people honest." He poured 2 glasses of wine. Slid one toward me. "But you don't need to be afraid of me, Elizabeth." I didn't touch the glass. "The doctor was arrested in Costa Rica," Victor continued casually. "Extradited yesterday. He and my wife are both facing 25 to life. The prosecutor says it's the most clear-cut case of conspiracy to commit murder he's ever seen." He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "All because of you." "I just told you what I heard," I said quietly. "You did more than that. You risked your life. You could have stayed silent, collected your pay, disappeared." He leaned forward. "Why didn't you?" I met his gaze. "Because it was wrong." Wrong. He tasted the word. "Most people don't care about wrong when it comes to people like me." "I'm not most people." "No," he agreed. "You're not." He reached into his jacket. I flinched, but he didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out papers, slid them across the table. I stared at them, not understanding. What is this? Hospital records, Victor said. Your mother's leukemia treatment. Experimental therapy. The best doctors in the country. Everything she needs. My breath caught. Fully paid. For life. Tears burned my eyes. I don't understand. Yes, you do. His voice was quiet.
Certain.
Loyalty, Elizabeth. Real loyalty. It's the rarest thing in my world. He slid another envelope across the table. I opened it with shaking hands and saw a number that made the room spin. $2 million. That's what the envelope contained. A certified check.
Made out to me.
I can't, I started. You can, Victor interrupted. You will, because you earned it. I just told you the truth. Exactly. He leaned back in his chair. Do you know how many people I employ, Elizabeth? Hundreds. Bodyguards. Lawyers. Accountants. People I pay fortunes to protect me. He paused. And not one of them noticed I was being poisoned. Not one of them saw what a girl who scrubs floors saw. They weren't in the right place, I whispered.
No.
They weren't paying attention, because they assumed someone like you didn't matter. His eyes locked on mine. But you did. You mattered more than all of them. The weight of his words settled over me like a blanket. My mother will receive the best care available. I've already arranged it. A private room. Round-the-clock nursing. Everything. I couldn't speak.
Couldn't breathe.
You saved my life, Victor said simply. This is me saving yours. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just remember this. He stood, buttoning his jacket. You were invisible because you believed you were. But you were never powerless. You just didn't know your own worth. He walked toward the door, then paused. One more thing. I looked up. If you ever need anything, protection, help, a favor, you call me. Directly. No one touches you. No one threatens you. Not ever. His voice was steel. You're under my protection now. For life. Then he was gone. I sat alone in that private dining room, staring at the check, at the hospital papers, at the proof that my mother would live, that I would live, not just survive, actually live. 3 months ago, I was nobody, a ghost, invisible. Now I was the girl who heard death whisper and whispered back, the girl who saved a monster and learned that sometimes the smallest voice triggers the deadliest reckoning. My phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Your mother is awake. She's asking for you. She says she feels stronger. I smiled through my tears. Victor was right about one thing. Loyalty from the powerless is the rarest currency. And I just learned mine was worth everything. I wasn't invisible anymore. I never would be again. The end. Elizabeth walked into that restaurant invisible. She walked out with $2 million and the protection of the most dangerous man in the city. All because she chose to speak when silence was safer. But here's the real question. What would you have done? Would you have stayed quiet and let a man die? Or would you have risked everything for the truth? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know. Would you be Elizabeth? Or would you walk away? If this story had you on the edge of your seat, if you felt every twist, every threat, every moment of tension, then smash that like button. It takes 1 second, but it tells me you want more stories like this. Subscribe and turn on notifications because Elizabeth's story is just one of many. This channel is packed with tales of revenge, secrets, power plays, and people who refuse to stay invisible. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Share this video with someone who loves a good thriller. Someone who needs to be reminded that even the smallest voice can change everything. Someone who would binge this entire story in one sitting. And here's the best part. Head to my channel page right now. Dozens of stories are waiting for you. Stories about betrayal, justice, revenge, redemption. Stories that will keep you up at night wondering, what if that were me? Don't just watch one and leave. Binge them all. Because if Elizabeth's story taught us anything, it's this. The people you overlook are often the ones who change everything. Don't overlook this channel.
Subscribe. Watch.
Engage. Your next obsession is one click away. See you in the next story.